There we go. You should be able to hear me now. Thanks, Diane. So welcome to episode 126. My name is Rachel. I can be found pretty much everywhere as Waffle Pearls. This is episode 126. And I can't believe we're already here. I can't believe we're at episode 126. It's just insane. I did fix the sound, so you guys should be okay now. Sorry about that. I had muted it I was typing on the keyboard while the intro was going. So sorry about that, you guys. We had a packed weekend here. It was Knit City, and Knit City is the biggest fiber festival, sort of. I think it's actually the biggest one, like, west of Manitoba. Like, I think it's actually bigger than anything. So, yeah, it's a huge festival. So it's mostly knitting, but we'll talk about that. And some of you seem to still be having problems with the sound. So you should be able to hear me now, Charlotte. If you can press refresh, you might need to refresh. Let me see if I can hear sound on mine, and we'll just pause for a minute and make sure that everything's working. Because can you hear me now, Charlotte? That's great if you can. All right. So, yeah, it was a huge show. It was really, really big this year. There were a lot of people, and yeah, it's working. Okay. There was it was just huge. So we've got a lot some Knit City talk. I did spend a little bit of money this time round and got a couple of things. And then we've got a little bit of breed and color studies to chat about, because it actually ties in really beautifully with spinning growth. Which is really cool. So we've kind of got a double header this week. And then I've got some works in progress to chat with you about. I actually forgot one of my works in progress. It's on the kitchen table, but that's okay, because we can always talk about it next time. I have some finished objects here to share with you. And that'll kind of round out the show. So I don't think we're going to get to everything today, because unfortunately, just the Knit City chat will probably take a bit long. So let's just get into the show and get started. So I had the pleasure of being able to hang out with my friend Mari for the first time for probably years. Her and I usually are with our group of friends when we're all together, and it was such a treat to spend Saturday with her, and it was completely impromptu. We hadn't really planned it. We had touched base on, let me just tilt the camera. Sorry about that, because I know I always look at the monitor and not at you guys. On Friday, I had sent her a Slack message, and she said, and I asked her if she was coming down, and she said, yeah, I'm coming on Saturday. And so I said, okay, well, let's meet up. Like, what time are you going to be there? And blah, blah, blah. And so we ended up meeting up around 9:30. She got in really, really quickly, because I was already in, because I was, I had an early access pass, and so I was sort of over where the Knitters Lounge area was. So Sweet Georgia had set up their booth, and then across from that was like a big seating area, and they had tons of chairs and tables set up. It was really, really well done. And some vignettes. And so her and I met up in Katrina's booth at Crafty Jacks. And so we stood there for a couple minutes and chatted with Katrina and Eric and Katrina's mom, Judy. But it started to get quite busy, and there was a lot of people coming through. And so Mari and I were like, we'll talk to you guys later. Like, you guys do your thing, because they're working, right? So we have to be respectful of their time. And I had just seen Katrina earlier in the week. And so Mari and I moved along. Anyways, we ended up spending the whole day together, which was really nice, because I had sort of been planning to go for just a couple of hours. And because I knew I was back on Sunday doing a spin-in thing with Felicia and Katrina and whoever else wanted to join us. And so I didn't sort of feel like I had to really hang out on Saturday, but we ended up just wandering around. We were visiting with people, and the photo was on the thumbnail. That's Mari and me and Greta, who's back to basics in the Slack channel, and our friend Susie. And so that was really great. We stood in Lynn's booth, who's West Coast Color, and I've talked about Lynn on the podcast before. She's in Tappan, British Columbia. This is her logo, if you will. We stood in her booth for probably an hour and all chatted and visited, and there's a couple of tears, and like it was so good to just be together, you know? So, yeah, that was really nice. So I did get a couple of things. So I thought that I would share that with you because I don't normally sort of, when I go to these things, I'm working. Like the last few years, it's been because I've been working. So it was kind of nice to be able to browse and look, and I was so inspired. I think that was one of the things about this show this time around. There were quite a few new vendors. There was quite a few new dyers. It was their first year there, and so the energy was really fresh. There was a lot of, lots of knitters, obviously very knit heavy. There was Andrea Mowry was wandering around. Stephen West was wandering around. Who else was around? Arnie and Carlos were around. There was just like a lot of people around, and people were really excited, and there was just a really good energy, I felt. And there was quite a number of the vendors had spinning fiber for sale, which was really nice to see. There were some really cool bats. I had a really good chat with my friend Sarah Elizabeth, and there was a nice energy. And usually this Saturday at Knit City, because it's so big, like I think they bring through like 3,000 people on the Saturday. In past years, it's had like this frenzy and this like tension about it. And depending on where you were in the hall and where you were in the festival, it still had that, but not to the same extent. Like it didn't have that same tension. So if you were in certain places, in certain parts of the festival, it didn't have that same buzz that was that tense kind of gotta buy. And then if you were in other areas, it certainly had that feeling, and people were really intentionally buying, and they were obviously there for specific things, but it kind of overall gave the show a nice feel. And then on Sunday, people really were milling around, and they were just visiting and chatting, and in the Knitters Lounge area that Sweet Georgia had set up. And I'm sure Felicia will show video and stuff on her Taking Back Friday episode later this week. People were really sitting, and they were just visiting, and it was really nice to see that relaxed, people were having coffee, and they were just visiting. There's a whole bunch of people, like you could tell they had organized to meet up. And that was really nice, that people felt like they didn't have to be in the market hall and in that area purchasing, and that they couldn't not sit and visit with one another because they were going to miss out. I know the classes were all, really well attended. The line on Saturday for the classes was enormous, and people had equipment with them. It was really nice to see. There weren't any spinning classes as far as I know. And the couple of people that I know that would normally put in their applications to teach didn't this year. So and I think because Knit City is very knitting focused, that very much was reflected in the classes. But there was weaving, and people were doing weaving demos. A lot of the Murex looms were on display, and people were doing them. Jana was there from the School of Sweet Georgia, and she also runs Everly Yarns. She had her Murex looms on display, and she had a bunch of her pieces, her tapestry pieces on display. And that was really neat to see. There was a lot of people spinning in their booths. Saw quite a few Spinolution wheels, quite a few Ashford wheels. Ashford was there. They had all their stuff out, and you saw like people were sitting down and trying stuff. The Ashford E Spinner 3 was there. and the country spinner, the east, that they've turned into an e-spinner as well, was there. And so people were standing around and trying them and spinning on them, and Kate was helping people. That was really cool. It was really nice to chat with her. I wish her and I had had a chance to like really talk, because I wanted to pick her brain about the new Ashford Jack loom, but we just didn't get a chance. It was just too crazy. So I on my to-do list is to send her an email. So that was really neat. It's good to see all of you in the chat. There's Diane, and I see Charlotte and Eve. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Rebecca, Sarah, so good to see you guys. So thank you so much for being here. So I actually, before I forget, I've been in the process of making up a couple of warp chains. This is one, and I need to do the second one, and I might actually do it today. I'm doing some tea towels, and I'm going to throw them on the compact. But it's white throughout the warp, and then I've got some stripes of this gorgeous blue. It's kind of like a denim blue with this corally pink, just very thin stripes. So there's the thicker blue and then the thin stripe of white, and in between is the thin stripe of pink, and then in between is the white. So I need to do the second warp chain of this today. I don't think I'll get it warped up today because I have to work nights tonight, so I need to lay down and sleep. But I wanted to share this with you because hopefully by the next show it'll actually be on the loom behind me, because right now it's folded up. I had to get it out of the way because it was just getting a bit crowded in here. And because I was feeling so inspired, I was starting to really spread things out, and I thought, okay, I need to put some stuff away. Now, I did pick up this from West Coast Color. So this is from Lynn. This is her, she calls it Biffle a Soy. So it's BFL Silk. It's a 75-25 blend. I have another one of these in my stash, and I've been kind of hoarding it. And I thought she had it sitting there, and as Mari and I were walking up, I saw it sitting on top of her bins, and I thought I need to, I'm just going to buy it. You know, it's like $20 because I know what her pricing is. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to get it. And then I have the two, and I can get them spun. So I'm thinking about a shawl. I'd actually really like to knit. Remember the Ramble shawl when we were away? I ended up not doing the brioche at the end, the big brioche border that goes with the Ramble shawl. It's an Andrea Mowry pattern, and I purchased the patterns. Like, I'd still really like to make it, but I ran out of the white for that, and so I couldn't finish the brioche. And I thought this would actually really be nice for that. So that's sort of on my Make 9 for next year. I've been planning my Make 9. I'll be talking about it tomorrow on the Wool Stream tomorrow morning. And I just feel so inspired after seeing a couple of things at Knit City. I was really struggling with how to tie a couple of things in, and I think I've figured it out. So I'll talk about these later because these are tea towels. They're hand woven. It was that 9-yard warp, so I'll talk about those later. So let's just focus right now on the Knit City stuff. If you could pick one favorite thing about the show, what would it be? That's a good question. So I think my most favorite thing about the show was that there was some new things there. There were some new vendors. There was a vendor from Texas. There was I think it was La BMNMA from Paris was there. It was just really nice to see some different vendors. So I enjoyed that. I think my most favorite thing, though, about these shows, regardless of the vendors, regardless of the merchandise and what's there and what's on offer, it's the people. You know, Felicia and I, we had a bunch of stuff that we needed to talk about. And because Saturday morning with the early access and people going to classes and stuff, it was still really quiet. There was nobody around. And her and I sat in the Knitter's Lounge while she set some stuff up on one of her looms. And we just talked. And then getting to spend the day with Mari and just talking, and same with Greta and Susie, and Sarah and I had a great chat, and her sister Jazz was there, and her and I had a great chat. I think for me, I've got these relationships with people And you guys who are in the chat today can really appreciate this, and the Patreon community. Like, we have these connections with one another, and they go quite deep. And I love that we don't waste time talking about the weather or making small talk. And it's not because those relationships aren't important, because they are. You need those people in your life too. But when I get a chance to see some of these people, like, we go deep right away. Like, it's like, what is going on in your life? How are you doing? What are you struggling with? You really get into it quickly because you've got that snippet of time to really catch up. And seeing some of those people and being able to do that so quickly, like, just like Lynn saw me and she just enveloped me in this huge hug because she's West Coast color, yes, and I love her stuff, and I've been able to talk about her on the show a lot, but like, I have a different relationship with her because she's a retired critical care nurse, and so her and I talk about nursing immediately. Like, she wants to know what my plans are, and I consider her one of my nursing mentors because she's really helped me to work through, like, do I leave nursing? Do I do this full time? Like, and all these choices. And we just get into that immediately, and she shares her perspective and her wisdom, and you can't buy that. You can't create that just by waving a magic wand and saying, I want that. You have to go out and create it, and you have to go out and cultivate those relationships and put the time in. And, I got this lovely email from somebody back in August. And when I got to see her on the weekend, like, it was just, thank you, thank you for taking that time, and, big hug. And that's really what it's all about, and I guess I'm predictable because Diane said I suspected you would say that, community, but it's true, it really is what makes this fiber community what it is. It's doing life with one another. All right. So I did buy yarn. Me and Katrina and Felicia are on a strict no yarn dyeing budget. But there's a reason why I got this. So this is from Farmer's Daughter Fibers, and this is 70% kid mohair and 30% silk. It's a very generous skein. It's 459 yards for 50 grams, and the colorway is called Warm Melted Butter. And I'm going to lovingly call it Warm Melted Earth Balance. But anyways, those of you who are plant-based or vegan or whatever will understand that. She was new to the show this year. I hadn't seen her there before. I'm pretty sure she's local. I think she's on the island. I really love her bands. They are so freaking cool. I'm going to keep these. I just think they are so neat. She's done them like snaps. Very, very clever. Really cool booth. So I saw this sweater while we were walking around. Mari and I kept losing track of where we were in the festival. It was actually quite funny. And it's because we kept talking to everybody, right? And there's just so many people to catch up with because she has a huge fiber community as well that's not related to my fiber community because she knit in the New West for a long time. So, and she's just moved away. So she wanted to catch up with everyone as well. So there was this sweater that we kept walking past, and it's in my favorite color. And it's a pattern by Petite Knits, and it's called Copenhagen. And my photo that I took, unfortunately, is really poor, and it's because we were talking while I was taking the photo, and unfortunately, I didn't realize that it was blurry. So it's on my Make 9 for next year, and the knit is in alpaca, so the yarn, and it's held with mohair and silk. But so the sweater had this drape and this hang to it, and it just kind of lacked a bit of life because of the alpaca. It's heavy, or in the sense that, like, alpaca just, it hangs. It's got lovely drape, but it hangs. And I wanted something with a bit more life in it, something a bit more like this, that's a little bit bouncier, a little bit springier, just with a bit more life. And Lynn had this in her booth. And as soon as I saw it, I just fell in love. So this is 100% Falkland. And based on my math, and Mari and I were saying, our honest to goodness, you'd think that her and I had never taken math in our lives and that we weren't particularly good at math. Because we stood there for a good 10 minutes trying to figure out the math. And I was laughing at us because like this is sort of what her and I do. And of course I teach how to figure out your yards per pound and work backwards and so on and so forth. Anyways, for the life of us, we could not figure out how much fiber I needed. We did eventually get there. So I need about 300 grams of fiber for the sweater. It's about 1,000 yards, the knit. And I bought, this is 150 grams, and I'm just going to pull out of this the colors that I need for it. And some of this purple I'm actually not going to include in the spin, but the inside of this bump is these colors, these awesome orangey, ochre, Halloween-y kind of. I don't like to label stuff as holidays. It's not Halloween. It's just that, it's got that real fall feel to it, kind of ginger. And I'm going to spin a 2-ply. So I came home on Saturday and one of the 100-gram braids, I actually divided up and pre-drafted. So this is, my basket is absolutely chock-a-block full of all of these little nests of fiber that I pre-drafted and got organized and ready to spin. And then I saw these as I was walking by and I was like, those are perfect. So I grabbed 2 of these and I'm going to shorten the sleeves a little bit. So I wasn't too concerned that this is only 900 yards. I suspect the sweater, like the sparkle cardigan only took like 825 yards. Like it was just not a lot of fiber. Not a lot of yarn. And I started sampling and spinning last night. That's how inspired I was. So this is my spinner's control card that I started last night. So it's 100% Falkland. The top is my ply back test. So that very first one up here is my ply back. And so I want the yarn to be a little bit higher twist than this when it's actually finished. I want more of like a twist angle of probably 40 to 45. These are the singles that I'm spinning. So the wraps per inch of the singles is 24. And then the ply back is about 16 wraps per inch, which gives me a fingering weight, which is, the sweater is knit with light fingering. And actually it was really nice because they had the sample hanging there. And then they also had the yarn for sale in the booth. So Mari and I were able to go and find the yarn and have a really good look at it. And it's this 2-ply fingering 100% alpaca. It was beautiful yarn, don't get me wrong. It was beautiful yarn. And then this is the 3-ply because I just wanted to see what it looked like in contrast. Very round, wraps per inch of 12. So that would give me more of like a sport weight yarn. So too heavy for the sweater, but really gorgeous yarn. I'll see if I can get this up close for the webcam. Isn't that beautiful? And this is a twist angle of about 45 degrees. So, and then that's the yarn there. And it's not super even when I was spinning because by that point I was actually getting really tired. Like I'd been spinning all day at the festival on the Sunday. This was last night I was sampling this. And that's what I ended up with. So I'm really excited about this project. It was one of those things that we kept walking past and I just kept thinking it's speaking to me. And the cool thing is, and I'll talk about this more on the wool stream tomorrow, they had done an outfit. So there was a sewn shirt underneath. And I'll talk about that more tomorrow morning. But the whole thing just felt like it was screaming my name. So very excited about that. Now, the other thing that I bought, I actually ended up getting a book, Weaving Patterns from 4 to 8 Shafts. So this was one of those things, Mari and I were standing there for quite a long time leafing through this. This is an Ashford book. And I just kept coming back to it and kept coming back to it. It's got some really great stuff in it. And the third time that I went back to it, I just thought, okay, the universe is trying to tell me something. So I ended up getting this. And actually what I'm hoping to do over the next year or so is work through the sampling out of this. And there's just some awesome stuff in here. Because I can do the 8 shaft patterns on my compact, and the 4 shaft patterns I can do on the Jack loom. So really good. I think just a really great book of stuff to work through, kind of like the Next Steps in Weaving, that book as well. You know, if I can work through a lot of this stuff on my own, I think I'll become, like, I'll have a good understanding of all this. Some of these 4 shaft patterns and how they work. Yeah, Diane says I'm always inspired by the colors of the season. Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? Like, we're so affected by color. I mean, that's really why a lot of us do what we do. So, talk about these in just a sec. I waffled about this all weekend because it was actually more than I wanted to spend, but I ended up getting a set of twist minis from ChiaoGoo. Now, this is the set that goes from 1.5 millimeters to 2.5 millimeters, so it's size US 0 to 1.5. And the reason why I ended up getting it was because I have had quite a few pairs of hand knit, hand spun socks where 2 millimeters just wasn't quite fine enough, and I needed 1.75 millimeter needles, and just feeling a little bit frustrated with that. And so I ended up getting that. And I did say on the sock content this month that, like, I'm a bit saturated with knitting socks right now. Like, it's been a lot of socks the last couple of years, and I'm sort of feeling a bit saturated. But I do like to have a pair of hand spun, hand knit socks on the needles because I wear them and I use them. Like right now I'm wearing my cabled socks. So I just wanted to have the options of having those finer gauge needles. And so I got them. So I'm actually quite excited about that because there's quite a few of my yarns upstairs that I needed the 1.75, and I've been waiting for the Addies. Oh, so I hurt my neck really badly yesterday, and I'm actually having a lot of trouble moving, but it's not painful like it was yesterday. So everybody who sent well wishes yesterday to me for my neck at the show, thank you so much. And I am moving a bit better, but I can't go this way. It's just really painful. But I slept well and I'm moving a bit better, so that's good because I have to work tonight. So I need to be moving. So Felicia and I were talking, and that's always lethal for her and I. This is the Falling Leaves colorway, and this was a specialty colorway that they did for the Spin Together October spinning, because there's no Spinzilla this year, so there's the Spin Together instead. I'll take them out of their bag. Sorry for the crinkling. Oh, I'm so glad, Kelly. So she's knitting with her mini interchangeables right now, and she's been so happy with the purchase. That's really good to hear, because Mari and I stood there and talked about it for quite a long time, because Mari has that set as well. And I was so torn because she finds the cables to be a bit too thin because it's like knitting with dental floss. So she said, like, you know how when you're magic looping, you tend to push the needles back through? She said you sort of have to pull them through. So she said, you just have to sort of change your approach a little bit. So I feel like knowing that going in, I won't be surprised or disappointed. But I've been waiting. I was saying I've been waiting on Addie sock turbos, I think they're called, the 1.75 millimeter ones from my local yarn shop for almost 6 months, but they've been back ordered, and I from what she said, it sounds like they actually need to like make more, and they're still waiting. And so I sort of feel like I just wanted to get something and move forward. So that's why I decided to get the whole set. And then I have it, and I have the 1.5s as well. And, you know, like a set of those Addi Turbo sock turbos, they're like 24 or $25 Canadian or whatever. And yeah, this is more, but you're getting all of the needles. So I sort of thought, well, for 4 pairs of sock needles, I can just get the set. So that was sort of what I decided to do. So the Falling Leaves colorway, Sweet Georgia put it together for this spin together, this October spin together. And they did it on 3 bases. They did Gotland, Targhee, and alpaca merino silk, I think this was. Yeah, alpaca merino silk. And you can see the difference in how the dyes take to the different fibers. Like Targhee, you know, gets that really saturated, bright color. It just looks, you know, more saturated. You get that brightness, the vividness of the fiber coming through. And then of course the Gotland, because the underlying fiber is gray, so you get that muted color, sort of a bit moody. It reminds me, this reminds me a lot of what we did for the Massom study, where we had the you know, the darker moody Massom with the black, and then we had the white Massom, and you got the brighter colors, and then you had the one with the white. So the alpaca merino silk again takes the color differently again. And her and I were just spitballing ideas, and we were talking, and you know, I said that I wanted to get these 3 colorways and play with them. So we're sort of in the process of putting together an idea around a weaving project for the School of Sweet Georgia, and I'm so excited to spin these. So I think these will all be 2-plies. They'll be for weaving and showcasing color and how it spins up, and combining different fibers in your woven fabric. So I'm really excited about this, and I just love these colors. I'm a bit nervous about spinning the alpaca merino because of my allergy to alpaca. Mari said I'm going to have to like wear all the woolens and spin outside in the winter. But I love this so much, and it's so beautiful. And I'm hoping that with the merino and the silk in there, that it'll just, you know, the alpaca maybe won't be quite so bad, and I won't start sneezing up a storm. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see. But just beautiful. And of course the Targhee's always beautiful. It's always a big hit. And then of course the Gotland, just, I'm really looking forward to spinning this. Probably a slightly higher twist singles than I did for the Massom study. And then doing a really gentle 2-ply so that the yarn doesn't feel ropey. Just beautiful. Gorgeous. Oh, I'm so excited about this. So, and I've got some other fiber that I, spin with a mask on, totally. Yeah, the using the smaller needle sizes, it's a tough one. Like, you know, I said to Felicia, I was kind of joking around, you know, like in some ways I just need to spin a bit thicker. But the thing is, when you're spinning multiply yarns, and you're like that 4-ply that I did for the Spin to Knit Socks course on Sweet Georgia, and then also the what was it? Some of the How I Spin content. So that 4-ply, sometimes you just end up, the fiber just naturally, wants to spin thinner. You've pre-drafted everything, and it just ends up being it just gets finer and finer and finer, and it doesn't really matter what you do. It's just going to be fine. So, I think in some ways doing that sampling ahead of time and figuring out your wraps per inch like I did for the Falkland, and figuring out like, okay, if it's 24 wraps per inch for the singles, what is that going to give me if I do a 3-ply? What is that going to give me if I do the 2-ply? And then taking it one step further, and actually we'll be talking about this in November, taking it one step further to what's the wraps per inch going to be if it's a 4-ply or a 5-ply, and taking into account that, 10 grams, say 12 grams of fiber off of the end of that braid, and doing that sampling and pulling off some of that stuff. And attaching them to your card so that you can see this is the difference. This is what all of these different yarns look like. And these are the wraps per inch. And then also recognizing that, like, if it's a superwash Targhee that you're spinning up for socks, it's going to poof and it's going to sproing. So if you have a 3-ply that's, let's say, finishing off, let's say your wraps per inch is 32, and then you're going to finish off with a wraps per inch of, what's 32 divided by 2? So 16 wraps per inch for your finished yarn. Is that fine enough for your socks? Is that what you want? Is that what you're looking for? Maybe you need to spin to a wraps per inch of more like 36, so that you end up with a wraps per inch of 18 for your socks, and you can get away with knitting on 2.25 millimeter needles, and you're not knitting so fine. I think what happened with my 4-ply socks that we talked about in the How I Spin content back in the spring, they got too fine. So the wraps per inch was more like 48. No, it's probably not that high. It's probably more like 42 or 40. So then the 4-ply ended up being 20 wraps per inch. And I was sort of going for more like 18 to 16 wraps per inch so that I could knit on 2.25 millimeter needles and have a really nice sock yarn. And the yarn was a BFL silk, and the fiber, and it just wanted to spin so finely. It just is what it is. So you need to sample. That's really what it is. You need to sample. But yeah, so inspiring. The last thing that I got, maybe Gotland for the Warp Eve. I was thinking about doing color blocking so that you could see what the yarn looked like in the warp and what it looks like in the weft, and doing like, 2 or 3 inch sections. So, having it go across and kind of making like a faux plaid. That was sort of what I was thinking. So I'll keep you guys posted for sure through that process. The last thing that I got was actually, I'm wearing it. It's this t-shirt. It's from Poppy Knits. And it's just like a really lovely, this is the size medium. Fits really nicely, V-neck. I'm wearing all the wool today because it's cold. And it just worked out really well. I really like this. There was another t-shirt that she had, and actually Mari ended up buying it. It was gray, and it was a mason jar. So this graphic here was a mason jar with needles sticking out and balls of yarn in the mason jar, and then it said baller across it, and I almost bought that one instead, but then I went with this one instead. How would the different shrink rates work with all 3 yarns in the warp? That's the thing. I have no idea, Eve. We're going to have to find out. So what I'm going to do is there's going to have to be some sampling. So I'll have to do some samples on the loom, see how they how it washes up. That's kind of what that's going to be the project. I'm really excited about it because I don't know. We'll see. I think what I'll have to do is just to get sort of a general idea, I'll have to figure out how much yardage I lose when I wash the yarn, and what the percentage of shrinkage is. And then I'll have to do some Zoom Loom samples and full them and wash them and see if there's any shrinkage in that and what the differences are. And then I'll have to do some sampling. So I probably will do some sampling on my little Cricut loom and go from there. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited about it though. So that was kind of it for Knit City. It was really good. So let's go into Breed and Color Studies and Spinning Growth. Okay, so this is from Kathy. She posted this in the Ravelry group. And I'm actually really excited about this because I was sitting yesterday in the Knitters Lounge with the Sweet Georgia team, and we were spinning away. And one of my friends from Disdarrow Ranch, she's the designer for Lori and does all of the samples and stuff. She came over and was like, and she's just started spinning. And she's like, I'm wondering about this yarn that I made and blah, 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 blah. And she's talking about it. And she's telling me about it. And I said to her, are you sure that you applied in the opposite direction to what you spun? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm sure. Absolutely. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, are you sure? Do you have the yarn with you? And she said, yeah, it's over in the booth. Do you want me to go get it? And I said, yes, please do, Mona. Like, go get it. Bring it over. So she brings it over. And sure enough, it was plied in the same direction that it was spun. And this was what Kathy had posted about. And so I just thought like the timing was perfect. I had also recently just done a bunch of samples for some up and coming content for woolen spinning, for our How I Spin content and for our 51 Yarns content. I plied it all in the direction that I spun it all in. So I had to reply it back. And I think it was just a really humbling moment to just be like, it doesn't matter how experienced you are. It doesn't matter if you're a beginning spinner or an experienced spinner. Like, this stuff happens sometimes. And to kind of be okay kind of laughing at ourselves a little bit. So I'll read what Kathy wrote, and I just really appreciate her humility when talking about all this. So Kathy writes, I had a spinning growth experience. It's kind of funny and somewhat embarrassing, but it took me this long to figure out what was going on. But here it is. I had a great idea. I was excited to see how the recent neutral breed and color studies fiber might play out in my project idea, and unfortunately I was in a hurry. These are words that never bode well. So true. I had never spun Dorset before, and so besides working with an unknown fiber, I was also trying to get the yarn finished before leaving for summer vacation. My goal was a significant quantity of 2-ply light fingering weight yarn. My singles seemed to be going very well, and I dove into plying with my deadline clearly looming. I knew something was wrong when I skeined up the yarn, as it was incredibly twisty. I think I even laughed out loud when I took it off the skein winder. Rather than wondering if I had done something wrong, I just made a quick assumption that it must be the new fiber, or that I had added more twist than I thought I did. Finishing the yarn always helps, right? So rather than taking a step back, I plowed ahead and soaked and snapped the yarn, which remained full of kinks after washing. So you can see it here after washing. I weighted the yarn while drying, and after it was dry, I noticed that the plies were not staying twisted and the yarn was very wiry. So I'm just going to pause here, because actually that was what Mona was saying to me too. She said, my yarn is so wiry. And I said, yeah, it's because it's over twisted in one direction. Again, rather than stepping back, I tried to knit with it, not a fun experience, and then gave up in frustration. That yarn has been sitting on my desk ever since late June, and I have been wondering about what went wrong. By now, of course, you have guessed that I failed to use the opposite twist angle when plying. In my haste, I made a rookie mistake, but the singles and the plied yarn were plied both with Z twist. I have been spinning for several years now, and it has taken me this long to figure this out. Obviously, this was a result of hurrying the process and not taking the time to pay attention to the warning signals that were right in front of me. Once the damage was done, my disappointment in not being able to follow through on my project meant that the yarn just sat on my desk. Over the next few weeks, I have been trying to clear out some projects, and this needed to be dealt with. I still had some singles from the original spin, and so I plied those up using the center pull ball method. These behaved perfectly fine, and after a soak and a snap, I decided that I needed to try to salvage the original wiry yarn. I sent a sample back through the wheel, plying in the opposite direction, and then soaked and snapped it. It seems there is a solution, and my project may be back on track. I will continue to reply the original yarn and push forward with the much more satisfying yarn. Lesson learned. And then there's the photo, and then she says below is the photo of the original balls of wiry yarn and the replied samples. So this is the original yarn that was the wiry, plied in the same direction as it was spun. And then I think it's the next, and then this is her sample that she did. So she took a sample from a center pull ball, replied it, and so this is what she ended up with, and this is when she realized, and these are the two yarns side by side. So the new yarn is the yarn on the far left-hand side, and the other yarn is the original wiry yarn. So the funny thing is as soon as Mona sat down and showed me her yarn, I immediately knew what was wrong, because it looked like that yarn that was just up. And, I think the thing is like, it's not just a rookie mistake. It's being in a hurry, rushing, not paying attention. And the funny thing is this yarn is made intentionally when you're making Hauser yarns, for example. You know, you apply in the same direction that the singles were spun. So these are skills that we need. And as spinners, these are, you know, steps in the process that we need to know. And this is also why it's so important to know whether we're spinning Z or S. And we need to be able to start looking at our yarns and being able to identify that. Because one of the things when I was showing Mona and I had the skein in my hands, I was able to show her in the singles how she can tell if it's Z spun or S spun. And that was really helpful to be able to show that to her, because, you know, it's the first time she sort of had been shown that. So it's really great. It's how we grow. It's how we learn. And it's, we all make these mistakes. So thank you to Kathy for sharing, and to Mona. All right. Okay, works in progress, but I forgot my works in progress. So if you guys don't mind hanging on for 2 seconds, I will absolutely run and grab my works in progress, because I do want to share that with you before we say goodbye. And then I will share with you my finished tea towels, and we'll call it a day. My Sparks of Gray is actually still drying. It's on the dining room table. It's finished. It's woven in. It's all done. And it's just not quite dry. It's damp underneath. So we'll save that for next show to share with you, because I wasn't ready to unpin it, even though it's in the show notes. I'm going to leave it there for next time. And I've got the Jack Loom. I've got the my hand woven Scout tee is on there. It's being slayed right now. We'll talk about that more tomorrow morning on the wool stream. And yeah, I just wanted to chat a little bit about my Marie Chen. So I'll grab that because I did forget it, and then we'll call it a day. So you guys chitter chatter with each other for just 2 seconds. So the door in here in the office is closed. And just in case there's like a knock at the door, or the doorbell or something goes, and I am in here. So I keep the door closed. And as soon as I opened it to go out, the whole house smells like African peanut stew. And I put it in the crock pot this morning. And oh, it just smells so good. So it's one of my absolute most favorite things in the whole wide world. I just love it. If anybody wants the recipe, I'll send it to you. Maybe I'll post it in the Slack channel later. So this is the Clun Forest. So I took your guys' advice about not loving something, and I ripped it out. And this pattern is by Isabel Kramer. I'll see if I can find a photo of it. There's got to be a photo here. I usually don't print out patterns, but this one has it's got a lace chart, and you're doing double seed stitch. So I did print it out, but that's what the cardigan looks like. And it's got this lace down the front that actually looks like a cable, but it's not. It's a lace pattern. And then you've got the double seed stitch that grows from the raglan all the way down. So I did end up still choosing to do a raglan. And I have to say, I am really enjoying this. I'm really glad that I pulled it out. And I am doing my two rows of each color. So 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, and alternating skeins. Because remember I was saying, and this was one of the reasons why I wanted to rip out the original cardigan that I had started. I hadn't alternated the skeins, and so there was a little bit of pooling happening where the textural, sort of tonal, some of the just the hand dyed colors on that is part of the colorway were sort of pooling a little bit. And I just thought, I really didn't like it. It was really obvious because it was just the sleeve. So it started right here and it went down the top part of the arm, and it just really didn't look nice. But doing the alternating skein sort of fixes that and looks really, really nice. So I'm going to be doing that for the whole knit. And I haven't gotten quite to the point where I'm going to be separating for the sleeves yet. Yeah, her patterns really are great. Charlotte just said Isabel Kramer's patterns are awesome. They really are. They're well written. They're clear. They're really, really nice. So this is the beginning of the front of the cardigan. So this is the beginning of the lace pattern. And then you've got this really gorgeous slipped. It's done with a slip stitch rather than with a cable needle. And then this is the beginning of the double seed stitch in here. It's just starting. I'm like, I don't know, maybe 10 rows in. But I'm really enjoying this. And my gauge is off a little bit. So I think the pattern is 19 stitches over 4 inches and mine is 20 stitches over 4 inches. And my row gauge is really off because the pattern is 4mm needles, I think. And this is 5mm needles that I ended up getting stitch gauge on. But she does give you lengths. So, stop knitting when you get to X length. Knit as set until body measures X amount. And what I'm going to do is actually knit the sleeves. Once I separate for the sleeves, I'm going to finish the sleeves first. And then I can knit the body until I run out of yarn. Because I really want to use up all of the yarn for this. Having a little bit of leftover, like, what am I going to use it for? What am I going to do with it? So I'll knit sort of until I run out, or until it gets too long, obviously, because that would be ridiculous. So that's the fabric. It's just working out beautifully. I went down to 4.5mm needles because I sort of thought, well, maybe I should have like a slightly denser fabric. But the 5mm is just exactly what this yarn needs. Any lower, and I think I would have problems, or I did have problems. It was too stiff, and it didn't wash nicely and create a nice fabric. So this was just perfect. And this gives the space between the stitches for it to sort of fill in, bloom a little bit, which the Clun Forest will do, and just fill in all those little gaps and spaces and air. I think it'll be really nice. So yeah, win. You guys were right. Rip it out. If you're not happy with it, rip it out. I'll never forget on the last live stream when we were talking about that, or maybe it was the one before, and somebody, I can't remember who it was. It might have been, I can't remember who it was. And they did the frog emojis across. I was like, okay, I get it. I have to rip it out. You guys are right. Let's talk really quickly about my finished tea towels, and then I'll let you guys go. So this was a 9-yard warp. These are not hemmed yet. My mom got my serger fixed. So thankfully that will be, I'll be able to serge the ends of these, and then I'll be able to get them all hemmed up. I think I'm going to switch the camera so that it's a little bit, so that I can hold them up here. So it was a 9-yard warp, and I've ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I have 8 towels. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 8 towels. So I added in some different colors to just kind of play. And I'm glad I did, because it created some really nice effects. So I added in I added in the sky blue, which I had done with the other ones as well. And then I have the pink here. And I had done this warp before, so it's the second time I've done this warp. And it was really more for me, just a learning opportunity for me. These are going to be mostly gifts for Christmas. But it was an opportunity for me to work with the warp one more time, really understand the jack loom and really get it running. You know, when you've got 9 yards to weave off, like you've just kind of got to get on it and get it done. These are already washed and fulled. And I didn't worry about where they got cut. I just wanted to make sure that they were all the same length. So I some of them got cut like in kind of awkward places. Like this one, I was playing with some tutu twill, and unfortunately that's going to end up being the hem. So this is going to get folded down along the pink, and it's going to be hidden. But the point was to play, not to worry about some of that. Like this is going to get folded up here and hidden a bit, but like it's okay. I was more interested in just being at the loom, weaving, and not worrying so much about them being perfect, but more just getting a feel for throwing the shuttle, getting used to the jack loom, getting used to being on a floor loom, not overcomplicating it. You know what I mean? So I wove these at 18 ends per inch. Oh, I didn't trim this one. 18 ends per inch, 18 picks per inch. It's 2/8 cotton. This is what they'll look like when they're folded into 3. It's kind of perfect. I just have 2 more to show you. This one has some tutu twill on it again. So again, the tutu twill is going to end up being a part of the hem here. So the pink is going to get lost. It's going to get folded over like that. But c'est la vie. I could have cut them in a different place, but then I wouldn't have gotten all 8 towels out. I probably would have only gotten 7, and I wanted to get all 8. So this one, funnily enough, ended up kind of being my favorite because it's just white with the color block of blue at the end. Ended up actually being kind of my favorite, which is sort of funny. This is the most simple of all of them, and it ended up being my favorite. The other one that I really love is this one with the yellow and all of the striping and stuff on it. That just ended up working out so well because I could have ended up, by accident, it could have ended up being cut in here somewhere, and that whole section, all those stripes ended up being preserved. So actually I'm probably going to keep these 2 because for gifts I need, I think I figured it out the other day. I think I need 5, I think. So that leaves 2 for me. So yeah, pretty cool. All right, let's just have a quick look at our show notes here. I didn't print them off today, and I don't like that. It doesn't never feels right when I don't have like a sheet of paper. Throughout the summer, oh, and next time I will talk about my shifty spin because I finished the first bobbin yesterday at the spin together, the spin in, whatever we wanted to call it. And so I've got the first bobbin finished, and I'm starting on the second bobbin. So I'm really ticking along with that project now, which is nice because I'm excited about it and I want to get it going. It's going to be part of my Make 9 for next year because there is no way that I'm going to have that project done by Christmas, but it'll be part of my Make 9. The Copenhagen will be part of my Make 9. And then I think I've got 6 garments that I would like to make next year. And there's a shawl, the Ramble shawl, that I'd like to do. So we'll see. It might change, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now for my Make 9 for next year. Oh, you guys are so funny. It makes me want to do dishes. Not dishes, making towels. You guys are awesome. We had run through July and August, and it ended up going into September just because of everything that happened over the summer. A giveaway from Kelly G Nets, who was in the chat. Kelly was here. Anyhow, yeah, there she is. No, maybe she's not here today. Anyways, the other Kelly is here. she had offered to, she wanted to do a pattern giveaway, and she was going to sponsor that through the summer. And then with everything that ended up happening, I ended up not being able to, oh, thanks, Dan. I ended up not being able to give stuff away, give her patterns away. So I finally got in there and was able to draw a name from the July and August episode thread. And then I also drew a name from the September thread. So, post number 8 from the July August thread was Kokory. I will get you in touch with Kelly, and then you guys can coordinate what pattern you would like. And same with September, post number 4, it was Mary, MJM. And again, I will get you two in connection with Kelly so that you can choose your pattern and decide what you would like to make. She just had a new collection come out, and some of those ones just, oh my goodness, they look amazing. She's really coming into her own as a designer, and it's just so great to see. So thank you to Kelly for doing that for us. I really appreciate it. We will be sort of getting back to a regular giveaway sort of thing every month, but it's just been a lot of recovery from this summer. So I appreciate those of you who are here, not for the giveaways, but for the community and for being together. I will be getting the newsletter up and running again this month, so do watch your inboxes for that. If you would like to sign up for the newsletter, please go to wellfordpearls.com. There are still copies of the book available if you would like a hard copy of the book. It's a softback, and the links are in the show notes below for that. And there are also ebooks if you prefer to be paperless. I did make some changes in September to the publishing schedule for Patreon. So instead of being absolutely rammed on the first of every month with everything that is for the month and all the content, it's kind of dripping into your inbox instead. So for those of you who are subscribers at sort of some of the higher tiers, that you'll be getting something every week, which is pretty awesome. And like I had mentioned earlier in the show, we do have the wool stream tomorrow. So I will see you tomorrow morning. I will be coming off nights, but that's actually works really well because I usually go to bed around 10 a.m. So we'll do the wool stream and then I'll head to bed. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. So on the Woolen Spinning Radio this month, there was a video format and there was audio format. If you haven't had a chance to watch it and you're a patron of the show, please go ahead and listen/watch. We reveal the colors, the fiber, and everything for the breed and color studies that started this month. Katrina will be getting links to me this week for ordering, and there will be a blog post that will be associated with that, and I'll link to it down below. And then you guys will have all of the information for ordering if you would like to participate in this coming breed and color studies. We're going to be looking at organic Polworth. Katrina thought that probably ordering would be on the 15th of the month, and she's going to confirm that with me this week. So I will be posting all of that. I'll post it in the Slack channel. I'll be posting it on Patreon, and it'll get posted on the blog. So do watch out for that. I think that's it. I think that's everything. Yeah. Oh, you always do it. That's so funny, Eve. That's playing havoc here. I always knew that it was the first of the month because of your woolen spinning content. That's awesome, Eve. I never thought people would maybe use it as like a gauge of which month it was. That's awesome. Yeah, dates for breed and color studies, Sarah, they'll be coming up this week. Katrina just needs an opportunity to recover from Knit City because it's such a crazy weekend for her. And once she does this week, she'll give me all the dates and we'll get that all posted. I think that's everything. Can you guys think of anything else before I say goodbye? We end up with quite a long show today, so thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I just really am always so humbled by the fact that people want to spend time with me and want to do this with me and talk about what inspires us and what we're excited about. And so thank you so much. Good. Okay. Thanks, Sarah. That's great. Thanks, Alberto. Have an awesome week. I will chat with you guys in a couple weeks. We're doing a trial. I was going to mention this actually. In a couple of weeks, our next live stream is going to be at 7 in the morning because technically for live streaming, if you're streaming from the Pacific Standard Time Zone, 7 a.m. is actually the best time zone to capture as many of the time zones around the world as possible. So we're going to be getting up quite early on a Friday. The kids have late start on Friday. So Mike can kind of hang out, if you will, until about 8:10. And we'll be streaming at 7 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. So I hope that that'll work for you guys. Where are we supposed to post our ideas for upcoming goals for wool and spinning? It depends which goals you're talking about, Diane. For your Make 9, or are you talking about just in general? Yeah, let me know. I thought it was funny that she thought he had plenty of... I know, Eve, right? So it ended up, we chose Polworth because of, like, she has it as part of her inventory, right? And and then the company that she deals with, where she gets her Polworth from, they're sold out. They don't have they won't get another clip until the new year. So we ended up just laughing about it. Like, really, it's just, it is what it is. In general, Diane, you can post in the Slack channel. You can post on the Ravelry group. Yeah, the housekeeping post on Patreon, the one that was, what are you looking for? What do you want? If you were a new patron just signing up, what would you want to sign up for? That's on that housekeeping post. Let me see if I can find it. I'll link it for you right now, because it's right here, and I literally was on it last night, so I know exactly where it is. Sorry for the clicking on the mic. Yeah, you can post there. And then if you're looking for, like, if you want to just post sort of more your, like, general stuff, then probably the Slack channel is the best place. All right, guys. The end of the show ended up being a bit long. So thank you so much for tuning in. I will chat with you soon. If you're in the Slack channel, I will see you in the Slack channel. And until next time, happy spinning. And I'm glad you guys enjoyed the morning. Me too. It's always awesome to be here. So take care, everybody. Bye.